Okay, we are live. Hi everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Thriving Tuesdays. Today I'm joined by Nicola from the Frugal Cottage. So, Nicola, thank you so much for agreeing to join me on here. I was thinking, just as I was waiting for you to come in, that you are actually one of the first YouTubers I ever came across when it comes to finance. I'm pretty sure that I was sort of watching your content before I even sort of started my channel. So it's pretty cool that you were one of the people that inspired me on my financial journey.
Oh, that's so strange actually. When I think it's weird to think of people watching me that then do YouTube as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was definitely a long time ago. It feels like a different life now, but
Yeah.
yeah, I absolutely love your videos and the way that you sort of put everything across and stuff. So anyone who's watching, whether you're live or obviously, I think majority of people watch later on. If you haven't seen Nicola's channel, then definitely go and check it out. So, with that said, are you able to just tell us a couple words about yourself and sort of what you do?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Nicola. I run the Frugal Cottage, like Anna said. It's all about budgeting, money saving, and investing on, although not so much at the moment, and kind of hoping to show that everybody is more than capable of living a life that they want to live, no matter what their budget. And yeah, I'm a single parent, two boys, so busy. And yeah, that's about how I'd sum myself up, I think.
Nice. I like it. So, can you share a little bit more about sort of your personal finance journey and background, sort of where you started up until where you are now?
Yeah, so I started the Frugal Cottage back in 2014, which is a long time ago now. And the reason why I started it was I'd found lots of American blogs, personal finance blogs, and there wasn't as much representation like in the UK. And so I was like, do you know what? I know there's Martin Lewis, who is like the personal finance god in the UK. However, there needs to be more representation from what I guess I'd class as normal people. And so I started that with the aim of helping people feel more comfortable about their personal finances, especially if they didn't earn what seemed like a lot of money. All these American personal finance bloggers seem to have like ridiculous amounts of income. And I wanted to show that, a really average, ordinary person could also do the same thing. And then it kind of just grew from there. And then it kind of got more streamlined into the fire aspect. And then even more so now, kind of looking at empowering women to do the same with their finances. Because obviously, and you'll come across this a lot, the personal finance world is very male dominated. And it doesn't have to be, and it shouldn't be. And so that was where that all came from.
Nice. And what sort of made you inspired to sort of share your journey in the first place? Was it sort of the fact that you wanted to get into the financial independence side and share that? Or was it more, obviously, like your name is the Frugal Cottage. So I'm assuming it's more to do with sort of saving money initially and being frugal. But was it from an aspect of sort of paying off debt, or was it from an aspect of financial independence? Because for me, my whole journey started from the debt side. It was just massive loans and then sort of thinking, okay, I can't live like this. How do I stop this? And then going on YouTube, finding people like you, and then sort of getting inspired and finding financial independence. So where did that all start with you?
I think I've always been really kind of careful with my money, and I think you always fall into either the spender side of things or the saver. And I kind of naturally, I guess, am more cautious about spending. But after finishing uni and having kind of like literally no starting point, I kind of got good at surviving on budget, writing things down, being mindful where my money went. And then it was like, hang on, if I can do this and kind of survive off what I thought was not very much, especially when you kind of go through, oh my gosh, I've suddenly got all these bills to pay and I've never had to do this before and whatever. And then kind of went through that. And then I tell you, I found, he's called Mr. Free at 33 now, but he was called something else before. And he was the first financial independence blogger that I found. And he retired at 30 with what essentially was quite a small dividend income stream. And I was like, do you know what? I want in on that. I want the frugal living side, yes, because I'm all about being mindful and simple with finances, but I also want the kind of the freedom of time, because we all know that we never get that back. So I knew about the FIRE movement, so to speak, quite early on, but that wasn't my focus, hence the Frugal Cottage name, because I'm all about living on a budget and talking. I talked a lot about my children about how making memories is more important than buying them the next X, Y, and Z, because at the end of the day, they're not going to remember that. They might remember some things, but the memories we make along the way are much more important.
Oh yeah, the pictures, the memories, all of that. Totally agree. I think a lot of people don't realize that actually being frugal helps you helps you with achieving financial independence, doesn't it? Because if you can survive off of a lower income and not have like massive problems with that and feel like you're sort of losing out on anything and it's just natural, then your financial independence number is far lower, isn't it? You can have that freedom at a much quicker rate than if you're a big spender.
Yeah, and I think the word frugal kind of sometimes put people off. They're like, oh, they must be tight or they're cheap or whatever. But actually, that's not how I see the word. I see the word as being more kind of mindful of where my money goes. We all work hard for an income, and then I don't want it to be wasted on things that aren't actually important. And I think that it's not doing without. So one of my most popular blog posts is about deprivation isn't part of the journey. So yes, I'm saving money. Yes, I'm doing all this stuff, but we're not deprived on the way. You wouldn't do this for 20, 30 years, whatever, if you were like living off, I don't know, rice and beans as the stereotype goes. You wouldn't do it because it wouldn't be an enjoyable experience. You would resent the whole process. So it's not about depriving. And I think, yeah, if you ask my boys, they'd say, oh, well, we won't buy me this or whatever. But I'm hoping I'm teaching them that actually there's more to life than getting another plastic toy that kind of they lose interest in really quickly. So yeah, deprivation it's almost like a trigger word, because I think people think, oh, she just must never spend money on anything and they must never enjoy their life. And it's so far from that.
That's true. And it's that kind of difference as well. Like you sort of bring out the frugal versus cheap. It's completely different, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's something that people who are new to the financial world need to learn. So how do you personally define sort of financial independence? Because obviously for different people, it means slightly different things, slightly different goals, I suppose, that they have. So what does it mean for you?
I think that I'm never going to be someone who's a multimillionaire, and I'm totally fine with that. I don't need that kind of, well, I guess if someone handed you on a plate, you'd have it, but I'm not bothered by that kind of lifestyle. For me, financial independence was always about the freedom of time and spending it with the family and friends and enjoying what there is in the world, rather than being tied to kind of, I guess, quite a specific schedule that maybe doesn't help you do that. I never feel like the numbers that I talk about in terms of financial independence are out of reach, because I've not set myself, oh, I need £5 million or whatever by, because some of the American independent, when you read them, you think, how have you got like, just how? But I don't need that. I think the more complicated you make financial independence, the harder it is to achieve, because you're always constantly striving for something else. Whereas if you think, actually, what do I just need to enjoy? I'm not going to go on world cruises. I'm not aiming for that. What I want is the time to spend with the people that I love. And that's
Yeah.
pretty much it.
So very similar, I think, to me, because for me, it's not necessarily about never working and just sitting around on a beach sipping cocktails. It's or traveling the world or whatever. It's about working. Like I never want to stop working because I get so bored. What I want is the ability to sort of choose when, how, where, all of that kind of stuff I work. So in one sense, I've sort of almost got that because I quit my 9 to 5 job and I'm sort of working for myself now. I'm not at the point yet where I can choose maybe how much I work overall. Like I have the flexibility, if I'm feeling rubbish, like I'll just cancel some lessons and move things around. But
Okay.
I still have like some debt to pay off and stuff like that, and I still want to invest more. But it is all about that ability to, if I want to spend time with my family, I spend time with my family. If I want to spend time with my cats, I spend time with my cats, and not having to deal with horrible bosses and people telling you what to do. Um, so what specific steps do you think that you have taken, or maybe habits that have been crucial for your journey so far that you think are worth sort of pointing out?
I think for me, I think the biggest thing when I talk to people about starting out is that you have to know what your money situation is. So you have to know what your income is. You have to know what your, not to the penny, but you have to know what your outgoings are, so that you can then make decisions about what happens next. So I have a budget planner that I write in every single day. It's something, I'm very much a pen and paper kind of person. I always have been. I find that quite motivating. You have to find the system that works for you, but then it's just having the knowledge, because if you don't know what's going on, you can't possibly change the direction of your journey, you know. And no matter what people talk about, having a budget again is not restrictive. It's not deprivation again. It's having that knowledge to then go, right, I want my money to go on this, and I want it to go on this. I don't want it to go on this, because that's not a priority. That doesn't kind of help towards my journey of whatever. I think the very nature of just, I guess, being in control of what your finances are has to be a starting point, because how can you possibly know I'm going to invest or save this much a month if you don't have that much left over? Does that make sense? So I think that's a really important habit, especially if you're starting out, no matter how daunting that is. Because isn't it, if you suddenly go, oh, I've got to write all these things down, and that's quite a big number that adds up to and whatever. But once you know that, you can change it if you want to, or you can change, well, there's only certain things you can change, I guess, but you can make it work for you rather than the other way around. And then once I got comfortable with the budget inside and balancing that, and then the saving, and then I was like, right, I feel comfortable now enough to kind of venture into the world of investing and kind of just go, right, I'm just going to go and start, because if I think about it too much, I'm never going to do it. And yes, you make mistakes along the way, but in everything we do in life, you learn, don't you? And it's okay to make mistakes. And I'd be the first person to say I've made mistakes on the financial journey. It's not been perfect. I'm sure you would say the same. Like, it's not, isn't it? It's not, you learn things and then you think back and go, well, that was obviously not a good idea, but you learn from that. And so I think that it's okay to make mistakes, but it's learning from them and then putting things into place so that it's as simple as possible, but it gets you to where you want to be.
Yeah. And I think that sort of reinforces why I think it's important for people to come out and share their journeys, because I think sometimes if you're not aware that there's other people out there making these mistakes, because all you see are these successful, like you said, American investing YouTubers, you're like, oh my God, but like clearly they don't make mistakes. They're investing and they're doing so well and everything's perfect, but it's not. It's a journey. And, I don't know anyone really personally who hasn't made mistakes on the journey. So it's really important to highlight that.
The more we talk about it as well, the more people can ask questions, because they don't feel like it's something, like maybe you think it's a stupid question, or why I should know this, why don't I know this by now? But then the more, I guess, we show and explain and talk about, then it's think, oh, I can ask that, because it's okay to not know stuff. Like, the financial world is so full of jargon that makes no sense, and sometimes I feel like they do that on purpose, so that like the everyday person, so to speak, is going to go, yeah, I don't know what that means, I'm not going to bother. But actually, when you break that down, it's really straightforward. And so talking about it helps, as with everything else in life. And hopefully by sharing things like our journey on here on YouTube, and I've been through quite a tough kind of 2 years personally, and so not sharing all of it, because I can't, but sharing various aspects of that hopefully shows that no matter what happens, we can all come through the other side of that and figure the stuff out, even if it's not where you thought your journey was going to go.
Yeah, 100%. And there's just solidarity in numbers, right? And I think I was talking to for International Women's Day. I did a panel discussion, and it was sort of talking about how quite often it feels a little bit like, as women, it's hard to maybe ask those questions of men, because we're made to feel like, how do you not know that sometimes,
Yeah.
and that's like massively obviously stereotyping, but a lot of women I speak to have had that experience of like feeling a little bit more intimidated to maybe
Yeah.
ask a male YouTuber than a female YouTuber. So I think it's good that we're having more and more women talking about it. So one of the comments, I wish finance was taught at school better. Unfortunately, I've only just started investing. Luckily, I've got a bit put aside to get me started, but I feel like I'm playing the catch-up game. But I think that's true for a lot of people at the moment, because I think partly because retail investing, I guess, wasn't as popular for a long time. I think it was in the comments, I was talking to someone where, in the past you used to have to go to a bank to invest, which, that is big barrier to entry already.
Yeah.
Second, you probably needed thousands to start investing back then, whereas now you invest with like £10, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think schools, it's like, I just don't understand why they don't teach finance in schools. Not even investing, like finance, basic finance, right?
Yeah, I think the other thing when you're at school is like it doesn't interest you because it doesn't, when you're 14, 15 and kind of the prime time for learning about stuff like that, you don't care about stuff like that. You're not having to pay bills and work out budgets and things. And it doesn't, I think until it feels real and you get into that scenario, you can't, it's not going to, maybe you could sell it by, I don't know, using, I don't know, I'm going to try and sound really like cool here, but I'm not, but like some kind of person that they like at that age, I don't know. But I feel like it's not something that interests them, therefore it's really difficult for you to pass that information on. But that comment there about I'm 40 and only just start investing, you know what, at least you started. There's so many people who won't ever start, and if you do that consistently for the next 20 years, you're going to put whoever that person is. I don't want to say the username in case I say it wrong. In 20 years time, you'll be in such a better place than if you kind of go, oh, well, I'm 40, so I might as well not bother now, because there's still, there's still a lot of time. So well done for that. It's you just keep going on and you'll learn as you go away as well, and not go away, as you go along as well. You'll learn as it goes. It gets easier, doesn't it? Well, kind of.
Yeah, but also like that whole point of, I think I remember talking about this a long time ago on my channel of like, don't feel like just because you're not 20, this is pointless for you, like that reaching financial independence and retiring early and all this kind of stuff. Because how many people do you know, if you presented them with the question, do you want to retire at 67 or 62? How many would say 67? Like, obviously, even if it's 5 years earlier that you can retire, that's still 5 years of your life that you get back. So even if you start at 40 and you invest for like 10, 12, 15 years, and you get to retire at 50, not 67, that is an awesome achievement. And, obviously it completely depends on your financial situation.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible to achieve. So
no, and also if you think about how many 20-year-olds, you're just kind of starting to be employed maybe full time, you've maybe, there isn't the kind of, for most people, not everybody, but for most people, there isn't the spare income to kind of go, all right, I'm going to put it in there for the next 40 years. Because you've got other things to do, maybe saving for a house, children, whatever. And so I think that even if you start what is perceived as later on in finance, it really isn't. And for most people, it's just part of how life works out.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Have there been any challenges or obstacles to your financial independence journey?
The obvious answer to that is yes, I suppose now. Again, so I'm now a single parent, and so I've been through quite a rough time, I suppose, but I'm coming out the other side of that. But obviously, I've gone from being quite far on with my financial independence journey to almost having to start over. So again, you know, I'm hoping to show that, you know, it's okay to start later. It's still, like you say, even if it's 5 years less than the, not that I can imagine being 67, but, you know, 5 years less than that is, it's okay. But it's also, I'm also, I don't have as much disposable income as I used to. And so it is prioritizing my children's life now, so to speak. So kind of, we're going to Disneyland Paris in May half term, for example, which I promised them for like 3 years, and we're finally going. Kind of creating memories with them now and stuff, but also trying to balance the now with the future and things, because it's gonna arrive whether I like it or not. Well, hopefully. And so, you know, it's balancing that. But those are the two kind of, I guess, challenges recently, is the fact that I am on a very different journey to what I thought I was going to be. But that's okay. That's what happens. But also, my income has to go a lot further and things are more expensive, you know, the cost of living crisis, all of that kind of stuff, for most people has put a fair few challenges their way.
Yeah,
So
but it's also like you say, it's life, right? Like usually something changes in your plans.
yeah,
There's some sort of quote, isn't there? I'm not going to try and embarrass myself by remembering it, but like, you know, something along the lines of, you know, tell God your plan and he'll laugh at you, or something like that, right? It's
yeah,
you can only do what you can, make your plans, and then adjust them.
yeah,
Like, it's not, whatever happens, if you suddenly have to change it, as long as you're still focusing on your goals and
yeah.
trying to do the best you can, like that's all you can do. But you mentioned your income having to go further and all of that, so that kind of leads nicely onto side hustles, everyone's favorite topic. Do you have any side hustles, and if so, what are your favorites?
So yes, it doesn't everybody at this point. I feel like everyone I talk to is trying to make money, like extra income. So yes, I obviously have YouTube, so my YouTube channel on here, although because I'm renovating a house, I haven't posted as often as I'd like, although I'm moving house tomorrow, finally getting to move in after months. So I will be hopefully back on some kind of regular schedule, like as soon as I get sorted and unpacked. But I have YouTube. I also have my Etsy shop, which is where I sell budget planners and savings challenges, and that is my I love, first of all, I use them all myself because I find them so useful, but I also love feedback that it's helped other people, because obviously we do this to help other people. And I know it might not come across like that sometimes, oh, she's YouTube and whatever, but actually the main premise for me starting all this was to help other people with their finances. And so that Etsy shop, really, I love it when I get my little notification that says that someone's, because they're making steps to changing their financial life, and that's, you know, that's exciting. And then I've got, well, I say TikTok. I'm not. I think I'm too old for TikTok. I'm not very good at that. But I have TikTok, and then there's the blog as well. But again, it's a time thing. I haven't posted there recently. But there are, you know, and then, like always with life, it's then balancing all of that. I work full time as well, so it's balancing. But YouTube and Etsy are my favorites. She says not having done YouTube in ages, but it normally is, and Etsy, just because I know that that is helping other people to change their lives. So yeah, that's what I have.
It's one of the, it's like linking that YouTube thing to what we were talking about, that life just sometimes gets in the way, because I had a very similar situation to you, in terms of, you know, YouTube was my favorite thing ever. Like, I think I attribute the success of my channel initially from the passion that I had for what I was talking about. Like you say, that buzz of like someone telling you that you helped them is just
Yeah.
incredible. And I loved posting, and it was my favorite thing to do. And I would prioritize it over a lot of things. But then life happened, and I was building a house in Poland, which is very similar to renovating. And that just took over my life. You know, it was so much stress, so many tears, so many, you know, stressful, sleepless nights of like, oh my God, you know, I just installed windows that cost me, I think in total I spent about 50 or 60,000 zloty, which is about £10,000. And you hear all these stories of like, you know, straight after installation that night, because they're still quite easy to remove. Like, quite often they get stolen, and I'm just like lying in bed going, oh my God, and my window is still going to be there in the morning. Like,
Oh my gosh.
and just so many things. And
Yeah.
YouTube took a backseat.
Yeah.
my house was a priority. My grandma died, like so many things happened, and life. But I missed it, and I was like, right, now things are semi back to normal. I want
Yeah.
to start and get back to sort of my regular posting and everything like that. So I think as long as you don't give up on your goals and your dreams, it's good. Do you do anything side hustle wise from like, you know, like prolific or user testing or anything like that?
So I used to do surveys quite regularly, but then as time constraints hit, as life does, I think that because some of them paid like, I don't know, like some 80 pence for whatever, I feel like they were kind of the first things to kind of drop, because you have to go, is this actually worth the 10-minute survey that I'm about to do for that? And over time, yes, it adds up, but at the time, I don't have the time. So I don't do, I couldn't tell you the last time I did anything like that, to be fair.
Nice. Yeah, I liked the only survey one that I used that paid pretty well was Prolific, because
Yeah.
any others I tried was like you say, you know, sometimes like 10p or something, which was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But user testing was always really good.
I've
Um,
never done that, actually.
so it's usertesting.com,
Okay.
basically. And it's awesome. It's not as regular, but basically you just screen record and talk to your microphone. Sometimes they want camera, but 9 out of 10 times they don't. They just want your voice. And the way it works is they say to you, okay, now we're going to see this website. Try to find X on this website. Like, how would your thought process go? Where would you click? And you have to speak your thoughts out loud. Okay, so you're asking me to find X. So that I would expect to see in category Y. So I'm going to click here and then go down here. Ooh, it's not there. Okay, so where am I thinking next? And you say your thought process. And they use that for like basically user testing websites and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool.
Okay.
Pays pretty well as well. So
Okay. I might have a look at that.
okay. Comment. So going to be really careful with this question, but please give me a suggestion. I'm 24. I've got around 60,000 in an ISA and bank account. Should I invest in S&P 500, all of it, individual stocks, or invest in property? So I'm just going to say neither of us are financial advisors. So please don't take this as financial advice. And I won't tell you what you should do. We won't tell you what you should do. But I guess what we can do is tell you what we would do. So like what I would do if I had 60K and what Nicola would do. So Nicola, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so just to reiterate, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is just me talking through a very hypothetical suggestion of what I would do. So I think for me there, property scares me somewhat. I'm not entirely sure why that is. I feel like you have to be a very specific type of person to go into that. And that I might be wrong in that respect, but I feel like that isn't for me in terms of investing in property to be like a landlord. That isn't in my financial goals at all. I think for me, I'd if it was me doing this, I'd split that in half. So I'd put some in funds and some individual stocks. If you look, I do share, although again not recently, my dividend investment portfolio updates, and I do have investments in shares, individual companies, and also in funds. So that would be what I do.
Yeah, I would reiterate that. Although, like, I would love to invest in property at some point. It's not my priority. I agree. You have to, I think, be a specific, have a specific type of personality. I think you have to be very resilient and be able to set emotion aside, I think, sometimes. But what scares me about property investing is it feels a little bit like governments in the UK and in Poland. I can't speak for other countries. Yeah. They are turning very against private landlords. There are a lot of things being put in place to discourage people basically from being landlords. And that is what scares me. And in Poland, for example, it's even worse because people can essentially rent your house, never pay like their electricity and water, rack up lots of bills, and then move out. And it's on you. Like, you will be chased because it's your property, which to
Oh,
me is just insane, right?
yeah.
But that's how it works in Poland. So
No.
I'm very discouraged from it.
And
It's
also, like, I don't know if you watch property programs or you did when you lived here, but there's a certain one that happens on a weekday where they go and find houses that need like lots of work doing. And they always set a budget of like, oh, I'm going to renovate this and whatever. And I know there's some experience of now renovating my own house. The amount of hidden costs within a house are ridiculous. And if you invest in property, unless you've got a massive, like, kind of emergency fund sat there for, oh, it needs a new boiler or whatever, I feel like there's loads of hidden costs you can't factor for. Maybe that's just me.
no, like this is all I ever said to people. And so many people have said to me now, like, after hearing what you went through, I'm never buying or building a house. Like, because it's like you budget this and then this happens and then there's this extra cost
Yeah.
and this has gone wrong. And one of my best friends has just bought a flat as well. And he's in the process of sort of renovating it a little bit. And he was just messaging me as well, being like, "Oh, you know, I'm coming across all these hidden costs you talked about." I'm like, oh yeah. But going back to what I would do, I would also split it. So I would split it. Also, I've always said sort of I wanted to do about 60% in funds and 40% in individual stocks. But I wouldn't put that 60% personally in just one fund. So I wouldn't put 60% of my investment into S&P. Like I would split that further into multiple funds. So whether it's S&P, FTSE, or other ETFs that you find. So, you know, developing world, artificial intelligence, all that kind of stuff. And also something worth pointing out that someone else has just commented that's really a good point. And I have REITs in my portfolio as well. REITs are a nice way to dabble in property without actually having to buy houses. So for those of you who don't know, REITs are real estate investment trusts. So these are essentially trusts that buy property with the money that's invested in them. And then all the rent that they get, the profits that they make from that, they have essentially a requirement to pay out, like, don't quote me on this percentage, but something ridiculous like 90% of it is dividends. So they are very, very good, especially if you find good ones. So my favorite is Realty Income because they pay a monthly dividend. So perfect. Okay. So how do you balance side hustling and work? So you mentioned you work full time. How do you find the balance between the two?
I'll be honest, it's really tough at times. So I work full time, I'm a single parent, and I try and fit in everything else. And sometimes things have to give. So, like YouTube recently has had to take a back seat just because of how long it takes. I think people underestimate how long like our video takes to film and edit and upload. Like, and I don't even do like fancy editing or anything. I'm fairly basic in that respect. But it is, like you said before, I guess it's maybe not at the moment, but what is a priority? So for me, I've tried to continue my Etsy store because for me that was slightly more straightforward, but I could do things at random times. I could, 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there, rather than kind of going, right, I need to edit a video that takes me like 4 hours. There's no chance. And so I guess the balancing is just looking at time and going, right, I can't do this today, but I might be able to do this. Or I've got a spare 30 minutes here. What can I get done today? And then I guess as well, like, it's okay if you don't get as much done as you think, unless your side hustle. So my side hustle income helps me do my sinking funds because I can't do them from my everyday income, but there just isn't enough of it. So anytime I kind of take my foot off the pedal a bit and kind of pull back, I don't get as much side hustle income, obviously, and therefore my sinking funds suffer because I haven't got anything to put in them. So it's how much do I want to be able to do those, but also I also need to, do real life as well and everything that comes with that. And then it's like, well, I probably should go to bed because it's really late and I've got to get up for work and my kids get up stupidly early. And it can be tricky. And sometimes I wish I could do more, but there are only so many hours in a day. So it can be tricky.
But it's not impossible, right?
No.
And I think a lot of people, and this is why I sort of put this question in, because so often, when I talk to people, they say, oh, but I've got a full-time job, I can't really side hustle. And I say, well, it's one of the things that I used to think at the beginning was, well, I can't do anything else. Like, I've got a full-time job. And in my mind, which is what I'm imagining these people think, is, well, why would I get a part-time job? Like, that's a commitment. I can't commit to that. But it's not. It's not about getting like an extra part-time
No.
job. It's about finding sort of side hustles that work for you, whether it's, like you say, YouTube, whether it's selling something, whether it's surveys, whether it's user testing, whether it's renting out your parking space, which we had on here as well. We also had buying a storage unit and renting it out. But the parking space one was really cool. So yeah,
I think so. I did virtual assistant work for quite a while, and I love that. And I wish I was still doing that in some ways, because I find that because then that means you're working for someone else, but at your house. And I love that, and I've got like a guide on how to start that. But when the time constraints happened, something had to give, and so unfortunately for me at that time, virtual assistant work, I had to kind of go, I can't manage this, because not only are you having to prioritize your time, but it's someone else paying you for that time. Whereas if you do things like YouTube or anything, well, most things, it's on you. And so with side hustles, if people say, well, how do you know what to do? You've got to find something that you genuinely enjoy, because if it's going to be on top of, if you work full time, if you work at all, it's got to be something that you enjoy, because you're doing that on top of everything else. And so if you're doing something, I can't think of an example, but if you do something that you really hate, A, you'll resent it, but B, you won't do it well because you don't want to do it. Whereas I love doing YouTube, and not TikTok because I don't understand it. But I love doing that because I like to. I just feel like I'm too old for that. I like talking to people and meeting people and having conversations. But if you don't like that, then don't do that kind of thing. You have to find something that you enjoy, because then you'll want to do it, as you mentioned before.
Yeah, and people used to ask me, because one of my favorite side hustles, sort of outside of YouTube, obviously I also teach English now, but that used to be my side hustle previously as well. But actually, one of my favorite things was my 0 hours contract in hospitality, because that was awesome, because I really enjoyed it. Like, I could talk to people, I'm very chatty, very bubbly. So I got to talk to people, I got to go out, I got to be on my feet after a day of sitting at my desk. And people said to me, like, how is it that you can go to work, spend 8 hours, at your accountant job, and then go and do like 6 hours at the bar? And I'm like, wow.
Just give me
Okay.
2 seconds.
No problem. So essentially, I will just keep talking. The way that it worked was that I was doing what I call a mind job during the day. So I was using a lot of thinking, a lot of stress, but I was physically just sitting there. Whereas when I was going to the hospitality job, it was just going from mental work to physical work, because it was mostly being on my feet and carrying stuff and moving stuff and pouring a drink and, running from the restaurant to here to there. So they complemented each other, because one exhausted me mentally and one exhausted me physically. And I loved it. So that's how I got the energy to do both. So yeah, I think it's really...
Apologize for that.
Don't worry. Could you hear me whilst I was talking?
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm going to go on to the next one, which is, can you share a specific achievement or a milestone during your journey that you're particularly proud of?
So I feel like, and this isn't going to seem like a very big milestone, but the first month I got a dividend payment that I'd done nothing for. And I think it was something daft, like £2 or something like really small and quite insignificant. Like it wasn't going to buy me anything. But the fact that I got that without doing anything at all was just, first of all, it was just like, I've been paid by like this really quite big company who clearly don't know who I am. And then that kind of set off the, well, if I can get £2 now, what could that be in 5 years if I keep going at it and whatever? And it kind of confirmed that what I'd chosen was the right thing to do, but also confirmed that if I could do this as you know, I'm not doing any kind of personal finance stuff like you have, like I've just researched myself. If I can do this, absolutely anyone else can. And so it was like, and I want to show, so I did a series on YouTube quite a long time ago now about investing £5 a week on Free Trade, which is a platform. Because I wanted to show that anyone can invest no matter what your budget is. And yes, £5 might not seem like a lot, but you know what? If you can do that every week consistently for however long, you would end up with something that represents another income stream. And that, for me, kind of just, that first, it sounds so stupid, but that £2 was like the changing point. And I think I probably told everybody that I ever spoke to for like a whole month, which was ridiculous. Like people at work must have been so annoyed with me keeping on going on about, oh, I've had a dividend payment, and they're like, oh my gosh, she's off again. But that was just the starting point. And like I say, from that moment on, I was like, I actually can do this as someone who hadn't got a clue beforehand.
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling every time you get that notification that your dividends have come in. It's awesome, and it's the only thing that because I sold a lot of my investments.
Yes, so have I.
Because of the house and stuff, unfortunately. But previously, I had my investments split over multiple platforms. Now I'm pretty much currently only on eToro, like the majority of my portfolio, with the plan to then go back and use multiple portfolios. But it's the only thing I miss about the other platforms, because eToro doesn't give you the pop-up notification when you're going for dividends, and I'm just like, oh, I have to go in and check.
Oh no, that needs to change.
Yeah, whereas trading 212, you get the nice little pop-up notification going like, you just got paid like X amount from this company, and I'm like, ooh.
And like you do like I don't know about you, but I'd be doing really random stuff. Like I'd be like sitting on the sofa watching some random rubbish on the TV, or I'd be out and just get it on my phone and go, oh, I've not had to work for that. And that, and then that's the same with like Etsy and stuff. Like those little notifications are what keep me going on this journey, because it is making a difference over time.
Yeah, 100%. So if you haven't already started, just start investing, basically. And my final question to you, unless we have any others from the audience before we finish, but if you could give one piece of advice to someone who is just starting out, what would it be?
Is this investing specifically?
Financial independence.
So I've already mentioned about how you need to know what your income and outgoings are, even if it's just on a scrap of paper. But I think if we looked at investing, I think that it's going to feel scary no matter when you start that, because whenever we do something that's new, we're automatically apprehensive because we don't know really what we're doing or what it's going to feel like or what it might come to. With investing, I think you just have to start. And I know that sounds daft, but it doesn't really matter what you invest in as that first investment. The act of adding some money, £5, whatever it is, and then investing it into something, once you've done that first time, as with most things in life, it becomes less daunting because, it wasn't as bad as that. It only took how many of the clicks of through whatever. And then the next time you'll feel slightly more confident and you go, all right, I know what to do now. I know what it looks like. I know what the screen looks like. I know what it's going to say. I think that the more you think about something, the more you can build it up in your head is going, I'm not this kind of person. I can't do this. I don't know what that means. I'm not the right person investing. Everybody is. But we all start somewhere. I remember buying those first investments terrified that I'm going to lose because there's always the warnings that you can lose it's at risk in big red red letters. It's supposed to be scary because they don't want everybody to do it. But if you start off small and learn as you go along, most of the time you'll be confident in yourself enough to go, I do know kind of what I'm doing. And nobody knows exactly what they're doing. Nobody tells you that, but literally everybody in this world is winging it on some level, even if they look like they're not. And if they're not, they've got loads of people they're paying to make it look like they're not. So, I've gone off on a tangent there, but just start, which is easier said than done, I realise.
Yeah, but I think it's echoed by pretty much everyone, is just, don't stress, just start small with amounts you're comfortable with, 100%. So we've got a lovely comment here to round off, I think, that watching your dividend journey inspired me to start my YouTube channel, from the Compounding Investor. So I started off by saying you were one of my initial inspirations, and now we're rounding off with another comment that you've inspired someone.
Well, I don't know about you, but I watch the Compound Investor videos, and his channel is like so good. It's so weird, like it makes me feel slightly awkward when people say like, that's what an amazing comment that is, but like, how do you answer that other than thank you, I guess? It's so when I film my YouTube videos, I don't think about people watching them, which I know is ridiculous, but if you think too much about that, it also becomes really weird. But that there inspired me to start and take that rather than the rest of that comment, but inspire, like, that's why we do this, is to help people to see. So in that respect, that's the YouTube channel, and great, but inspire you to start wherever your budget, you're investing, saving, in baby steps, and that just makes it all worthwhile, no matter how hard the day's been. So thank you for that comment. And as well, I know when you get comments like that, sometimes you can be having a really rough day, and then someone sends you a message or whatever, and you go, I've helped someone, or someone's thought that they could do something because of something that I've done or said that they can do, or whatever. So that's a really nice comment. Thank you.
It is, and I agree. Like, it's one of the best feelings that you can have when someone actually just takes the time to message you and say, thank you, you've helped me with this or the other. And when I was just sort of coming back into going back into YouTube again, I had like a voice note from someone who's just like, oh, I just want to thank you for your video about, doing tutoring, as in, teaching English, because I started teaching French, and now I sort of make so much money on it. I make pretty much as much as I do on my day job, and all this kind of stuff. And it was all inspired by your video, and I'm just like, oh my god, that's amazing! Like, I'm so happy for you. So it's just incredible when you have that. So thank you to everyone who takes the time, basically, to let us know
absolutely
help in some way, because sometimes you wonder whether it's worth going on, I think, with the finance YouTubing. Do you think the YouTube finance space has become saturated, or is there space for new channels? I think there's space. There's always space.
I think that there's no one that's quite like you. So there's no, it's part of it is building trust of who you are as a person and what you bring as your experience. No one else doesn't have the same experience you have, or you might explain something differently, and suddenly, because you won't explain it differently, someone else understands. So I think, there's definitely, it does take consistency, and it does take, doesn't it? Most channels don't blow up overnight. That's a fairly unusual thing to happen. I think that you have to be willing to take the time, or make, I'm not feeling that well, like, it takes time, doesn't it? You have to expect it to take, I don't know, months of your time before anything happens, unless for some bizarre reason you happen to get a video that blows up, and I've not had that happen yet, so I can't comment on how that feels.
It's a funny one, because like one of my favorite YouTubers, Catherine Manning, she had her channel for years before it blew up, and now she's like one of the biggest YouTubers that I watch. And I remember once I had a blog, and I used to babysit for this couple, and the guy was in sort of search engine optimization, and I was like, oh, can you help me like with SEO and like getting on Google first page? And he was like, look, if you keep this blog for 12 months, we'll talk. Because he was like, most people give up within the first year, and there's no point of doing that. And it's true, because even with YouTube, most people don't monetize for a year. You know, it usually takes people a year to get monetized on YouTube. So if you're doing it with the sole intent of monetizing and getting subscribers and money, I wouldn't bother, because you will get so frustrated. You need to want to talk about it. You need to want to share your journey and help people, inspire people, and then let the rest come naturally, because otherwise it will feel like a massive chore. And I was lucky enough that I monetized quite quickly, but I got in at the time when everyone was sitting at home worrying about finance. So that sort of helped me grow. But yeah, I think most people I know take at least a year, because it takes time to get the watch time, really.
I was gonna say, it took me over a year, but it wasn't the subscribers that was the issue, it was the watch time. And until I started making longer videos where I felt more comfortable rambling on for longer. I used to make quite short videos, and so the watch hours, is it 4,000 watch hours? That took it's a lot, really, when you're starting out and you don't have the subscribers, or you don't get on the homepage because people aren't really clicking because you're small. That's the thing that takes the time, or it did for me anyway.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it's the thing most people struggle with. So okay, 51 minutes. So we have been talking for a very long time, but thank you so much to anyone who stuck around for the whole 51 minutes. You are awesome. And once again, Nicola, thank you so much for agreeing to spend an hour talking to me. I really want to share like awesome people's journeys, because anyone who's inspired me is bound to inspire other people. So
Oh, thank you for having me.
it's okay. So enjoy the rest of your evening, you and everyone who's watching, and we'll see each other soon.